Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome or welcome back. This is November, so it's National Native American Heritage Month, and I just wanted to give a few recommendations and also some of my TBR for book recommendations. So, the first one was one that I read this year, Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. This book it's so beautifully written. There's so many wonderful phrases and stuff that I go back to that I highlight. I actually included several quotes from this in one of my videos that I did, on quotes. I think it was the favorite quote tag. So you can get some of my favorite quotes from this book on that video. But it's about this girl, Betty, who's tells basically her family story. So she has brothers and sisters, and it is honestly trauma after trauma. And it is hard to read at times. I actually had to set it down a few times before to get into it, just because of all the trauma. But the character relationships between her and her sisters, her mom is abusive and mentally ill, and her dad, who she loves and gets along with very well, and so she was such a great character to follow, because she loves them all, even though she fights with her sister, or doesn't understand the depth of her mother's mental illness, and has had to endure so many traumas and deaths and grief in her young life. So it's a beautiful exploration of just survival and family, despite how tragic a lot of the things that she talked about were. It's very obvious that she has huge love for her family. So I do highly recommend this book. Just you might want to check trigger warnings beforehand, if that is something that there are several things in here that might be really hard to read. The next one is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bully. Now, I recommend any of her books. This one is her first, and then her newest one that came out, The Sisters in the Wind, actually should be read after this one, even though it was released third chronologically. I would recommend you reading it second, because that is how it is put within this world that she created. And then the last one is Warrior Girl Unearthed. In this, they are all set in Michigan, which, as someone from Michigan, I really identify with and connect to. But not only is it this love letter to the community, but it's really great because she features a lot of the tribe that she talks about in here, and their native language. And so sometimes she uses that language and then shows you so that you can learn. And then sometimes she just uses that language and you don't know for sure what she's talking about. You can, make your assumptions and stuff within, context clues. But it feels so much more organic, as she includes so much of their language in these stories. And each one deals with something really important to their culture, something obviously important to the writer. And so this first one deals with grief. It deals with the drugs and basically addiction and stuff on reservations and within tribes. But it also deals a lot with violence done towards women, indigenous women. And so it has a lot of very heavy elements. These are young adult books, though. So she handles it in a very beautiful and grounded way. especially this book when she's talking about grief. I really enjoy The Sisters of the Wind, which deals with the foster care system and the Indian Child Welfare Act, which is trying to restore the indigenous people who were taken from their homes, mostly because the federal government views poverty as an excuse to take children away for negligence or whatever. And a lot of people on these reservations live in poverty due to how our government and stuff treats them and what accesses they have. So to force them in poverty and then take their children away because they're in poverty is definitely something that needs to be addressed, especially when taking the children away is taking their future away. And once there's nobody left in those tribes, who's going to have that land? Obviously, the government and corporations have their own idea of what to do with that land. So it's all connected, and I really like how she at least addresses some of the issues so that we can understand what's actually going around. And then the third book, which was her second release, which is Warrior Girl on Earth, is how the treatment of their ancestors' bones, how they're dug up and a lot of colleges and museums, universities have all these native bones, and they have so many they don't even have room to show them, and they just have them in boxes, and it's about their fight to return their ancestors' remains to the tribes that they belong to, and that ongoing process, because it is still ongoing. So I love that these books are basically mysteries. So I know that the author has mentioned how she, when she pitched it, is basically Nancy Drew if she were indigenous. And so they're all mysteries, they're all fun, but they have so much at the heart of it that they're trying to educate us about, and I feel like they should be required reading. So I would recommend any of these books, but definitely start with this one. And then I've also read a few of Stephen Graham Jones' books, Buffalo Hunter Hunter and Only Good Indians. I have done reviews on those in previous videos, but those are horror stories. The first one is about vampires. The Buffalo Hunter Hunter, Only Good Indians is about basically a herd of elk were uselessly and murderously slaughtered, not for food, not even for hunting or anything, but just because they could, and how they then reincarnate and try to take revenge in human form on the people who murdered them. And they're, like I said, both horror. They have fantastical elements within them, supernatural elements, but it's so grounded in reality, so much depth in history, dealing with culture, dealing with colonization, dealing with loss of culture, dealing with identity and understanding your identity, generational trauma, and just so many really universal themes that ground these stories in a way that they stick with you. So I've never really been a horror reader, and now I've been going down and reading all of Stephen Graham Jones's books. I just did a review for his Mongrels and My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is the first in a trilogy. So I recommend those as well. They have very much the same elements that I was just talking about from his other books, but they're more I guess I would consider them young adult. The narrators. One is My Heart is a Chainsaw is a trilogy, and that's narrated by a teenage girl who's obsessed with slasher films to escape the horrors of her real life. And then Mongrels is about a family of werewolves, and it's a coming of age story told from the story of this boy. Once again, very supernatural elements, but so much depth and beauty in the way that he writes it. Another one that I recommend is The Seed Keeper by Diane Wilson, and that is dealing with many of the same things, but Seed Keeper as in preserving culture and in preserving their generational storytelling and their future through the very important job of being the seed keeper for that family, that tribe, and understanding that, learning that, following this girl who grew up not amongst her people because she was taken, and learning about her culture, why you kind of get this backstory about the different people within her family who, whether they were taken by the whites and sent to these schools to try to civilize them, and how that destroyed families and separated families and destroyed culture, and once again a lot of the other themes that I have mentioned already. But in that one, I actually had learned, she had mentioned, and then I had learned about it before, but it put it in a way that I really wanted to make sure that I read more instead of just hearing about it in different podcasts and different other books that I've read. So I wanted to read The 38 Nooses, and this is about in Minnesota, there was this basically a fight between the Dakota and the whites who were settling there, kept taking their land, and so they struck back, and then it became this war back and forth until for 6 weeks of fighting, and then the white settlers wrote to Lincoln and wanted to they rounded up 303 Dakotas and wanted them all sentenced to death, and Lincoln decided that he would only kill the ones who they could prove were significant part of the violence, that he wasn't going to kill all of them. So he ended up, they killed 38, which is one of the single biggest essentially death sentence issued in the United States. So I wanted to read more about this. This was very prevalent in the Seed Keeper story because that was set in Minnesota, and she, learning that she's now indigenous, she had not grown up aware of her family and stuff, and she's seeing how she goes into town and stuff, and they keep memorializing this war that happened, but all the statues and stuff are from the white side of things, and nobody is discussing the indigenous lives that were lost and the reasons for that conflict to begin with. So she is realizing and trying to understand and come to terms with those parts of her, the part that grew up thinking it was normal to go into a town and see these things, and the parts of her that are now realizing that as an indigenous person, how traumatizing it is to be reminded of this conflict, but then erased entirely from it by memorializing only one side of it. So I really did enjoy that story, and I would recommend that as well. I learned a lot from there. And then the other ones are ones that are on my TBR. So I'll start with the ones that I have here. If you hold on a second, I will do these two, but I actually have another stack that I didn't want to drop. So this is the Inconvenient Indian, and this is the curious account. Sorry about my cat again. The curious account of Native peoples in North America. So this is essentially a retelling, as if when Columbus and his people come to the islands and basically colonize the United States, or actually they don't even land in the United States, but the islands and then South America and stuff once they start colonizing. This is the account of these people seeing these ships and knowing what might be coming for them. So this is told from the indigenous point of view. The other one is In the Spirit of Crazy Horse. This is a biography, and it says the story of Leonard Peltier and the FBI's war on the American Indian movement. So I'm hoping that it gives a unbiased account rather than focusing on the FBI and the white side of things. I guess I didn't read that part when I was trying to look for books and was recommended this one. I have a couple other ones, but of the ones that I don't currently have, I wanted to mention. I want to read To Shape a Dragon's Breath, which is by Monaquil Blackgoose, and that is a fantasy. I really want to try to finish this by the end of the year because the book 2 comes out, I believe, in January of that one. Aletso is by Darcy Little Badger, and that's also a mystery, like a supernatural type of mystery. I believe that the young girl who's indigenous, who's telling the story and trying to solve murder within her community, is also asexual. So there's good representation there as well, because you don't get a whole lot of stories that feature asexuals. One that's on my list to read for Nonfiction November, I had already mentioned it, but it's Two Spirit Journey, Mani Chakabi, and that is a story that I've been wanting to read. And Two Spirit is identity of how they see themselves. So I'm really interested in understanding, like, I understand non-binary, and I know that it's kind of an off branch, but it's separate and it's its own thing. So I wanted to understand that completely and learn more about that. I really do apologize for my cat. I do not know what is in her today. I have several from Louise Erdrich that I want to do. I do have an actual book, so I'll talk more about hers when I grab those books quick. Another one I want to read is The Marrow Thieves by Sherry Dimeline, and that one is a young adult fantasy as well, but once again rooted in harsh realities and colonization and stuff like that. And then I also want to read The Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse, and I know this is, I believe, a trilogy as well, and I have had that on my TBR for a long time, so maybe I'll get to it. I do have the audiobook of that, so maybe I can get to that by the end of the year. But I'm gonna not gonna pause. I'm just gonna hurry up. I have the books behind me, so I'm gonna grab those really quick. So please bear with me. Sorry. So the other ones that I had were Voices from the Trail of Tears. I actually got this one when I went down to Chattanooga in Tennessee, because that is starts for the Trail of Tears up there, up in the north. And I went to the memorial for that, which is this waterfall that's really, really cool to see, as well as statues along the bridge that basically represent the beginning of that journey in that Trail of Tears. So I got this there to remember that. So this is specific voices, interviews and stuff from survivors, family members who are survivors. Another one along with that, and I got this also at, when I was in Chattanooga, Indigenous Peoples History of the United States. And I had mentioned I have several of Louise's books on my TBR. My first one that I want to read is Love Medicine. I know there was Roundhouse and The Mighty Red that are also on my list. When I talked to Angeline, I actually got to meet her when she was discussing her second book, Warrior Girl on Earth. I had her sign my Firekeeper's Daughter book, and got a chance to meet with her and have her autograph my book. But I did ask her whether it was her favorite, a book that changed her life, and then a book that was the one that she recommended the most to people. So one that she said that changed her life was the Indigenous one, because, you know, learning your own history. But also the one that she recommends to people is Custer Died for Your Sins. So I bought that as soon as she recommended it. I do need to get to this soon. It's short enough, so maybe I'll try to add that as soon as I can get to it. And then the last one that I have here is Five Little Indians. And this is by Michelle Good. And this obviously is about a group of friends, and talks about, I guess, the human cost of colonialism, and it's interwoven stories because everybody has a different experience. And obviously I'm going to continue on my journey reading more of Stephen Graham Jones, since I do have 2 more books in his trilogy after reading the book, My Heart is a Chainsaw. So I do want to read every one of the books that I have available to me of his. But if you have any other recommendations, if you have any comments, if you've read any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. Anyway, happy National Native American Heritage Month. Thank you and have a great day.